This is a podcast from the Environmental Change and Security Program at the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars.
So this is Jeff DeBelko in the Environmental Change and Security Program at the Woodrow Wilson Center. I'm up in New York City at UN headquarters, where the UN Environment Program has brought together a group of experts for a variety of consultations, and I'm joined by Richard Matthew, professor at University of California, Irvine, and director of the Center for Unconventional Security Affairs. Richard recently went out to the Democratic Republic of the Congo to investigate the links between natural resources and conflict. And so, Richard, I wondered if you could tell us how you saw natural resource issues connecting to conflict and the livelihood challenges there in eastern DRC.
Sure. Thanks, Jeff. I think that the region that we were looking at, which is the area around Virunga National Park, Goma, Lake Kivu, Lake Edward, on the border of Rwanda, is an area that's been subjected to an enormous amount of pressure in the last 14 years. Literally 1 million refugees moved in 1994 from Rwanda. There have been 2 wars in the area. There's a sort of war taking place, at least a low-intensity conflict taking place now. And the big challenge, I think, is on the one hand, the humanitarian organizations are trying to meet the needs of literally hundreds of thousands of displaced people and refugees in this area. And the principal source of resources, of protein, of water, of fuel, wood, is the national park. And it's the oldest national park in Africa. It's a very large, very remarkable place. The conservationists, on the other hand, are trying desperately, while recognizing the humanitarian needs, to protect one of the world's only populations of hippopotamus, elephants, rhinoceros, and so on. But really, the integrity of the forests and the lake system and so on, which the people in the neighboring town of Goma depend upon for their livelihoods. So what we've got is a sort of tension between the humanitarian needs and the fact that this park is an important part of this of East DRC. And I think that what we tried to do is bring these groups together to talk about what they could do to meet the immediate needs of hundreds of thousands of displaced people and refugees in a way which will reduce some of the pressure that we're seeing placed on the park today.
What is the security atmosphere there? Because of course so many of these challenges require some sense of security, but we're seeing from what you're saying that in some ways the natural resource challenges are part of creating an insecure environment as well.
I mean, I think that this is a highly insecure area. It's from a UN perspective, it's called a level 4 security situation, which is just below all-out evacuation. There are rebel forces. There are gangs of sort of teenage gangs called Mai Mai that are heavily armed and roam around this area. There are problems with the military and police forces who are often unpaid for months at a time, and who then are forced into a survival mode. So the resource base is a point of contact of all these groups: humanitarians, park rangers, military, the local residents, the refugees, and it's a constant area of tension as they struggle to survive and also to sort of gain control and manage different parts of the natural resource base there.
Well, we look forward to hearing and reading your writing about this issue. Tell me a little bit more about your center and some of the related activities that the Center for Unconventional Security Affairs is doing on these topics and other ones like it.
I mean, the focus of most of our work is looking at the environmental dimensions of conflict. When is conflict over natural resources, and when do natural resources in the environment sustain conflict? How can natural resources in the environment be used as part of the peace building process? And we've done work throughout South Asia, in northern Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh and India, and in several parts of East Africa. So we're working now in Rwanda, Congo, Uganda. And a lot of our focus is on trying to bring together the sort of development, humanitarian and environmental communities who are all operating in these crisis situations to better coordinate their activities so that the resources can be used as effectively as possible and as sustainably as possible.
One of the issues that I've noticed that you are also focusing on is looking at the issue of microcredit and small loans to poor people and how that practice does or does not account for environmental issues and conflict issues. Can you say a little bit about that research that you and your associates are doing?
Sure. We've been working on microfinance for several years now, and one of our concerns was that that microfinance lending did not always, rarely takes into consideration the environmental impact, and rarely takes into consideration some of the conflict-conducive factors in a society. So we started to ask ourselves, what are the opportunities for microfinance to be of value, to add value to climate change adaptation programs and to peace building programs. And so we're experimenting in some of these conflict zones with bringing together the liquidity of microfinance and their expertise in creating livelihoods with expertise in climate change adaptation and conflict resolution to see if, when those things align, can we end up with a more durable outcome. We're working now on this in Rwanda, Mozambique, and Kenya.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much, Richard. We look forward to future work from the Center for Unconventional Security Affairs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
For more information on environment, conflict, and cooperation, as well as articles by Richard Matthew, visit us on the web at www.wilsoncenter.org/ECSP. For up-to-the-date information on these issues and more, visit our blog at www.newsecuritybeat.blogspot.com.